Hi, hello, hey, how are you? It is I, it is me, it is her, it is she, Miss Cece. No, wait. Hey y'all, it's your favorite piano teacher, Miss Cece, and welcome back to my classroom, Ms. Cece's classroom. And in today's class, we're going to be learning about steps and accidentals, so I hope you guys are ready. So let's get started. Now, a half step, which is also known as a semitone, is defined as the distance from one key to the very next one on the keyboard. For example, on my little bootleg keyboard that I made for y'all, you have middle C right here, okay? This is going to be our middle C. Now, a half step will be from going to middle C to the very next key, which is a black key, which will be C sharp. So from C to the very next key, C sharp, is a half step. Half step not only goes from a white key to a black key, but it can also go from a white key to another white key. Here we have our note E going to the very next note, which is F, and this is also a half step. Remember, you will only find white key half steps in two instances. The first one we have here, which is E to F, and the second one is from B to C. Now, a whole step, which is also known as a whole tone, is the distance of two half steps, okay? So remember, two half steps equal one whole step. So for example, let's start back at C again. So we know a half step would be from C to C sharp. Now if we add one more half step, that's going to be from C sharp to D. So from C to D is a whole step. Let's review that one more time. One half step will be from C to C sharp. We need another half step. So our second half step will be from C sharp to D. Therefore, a whole step will be from C to D. Now, accidentals are different symbols that are used to raise or lower the pitch of a note. Now, these three are the main accidentals that you will find in any type of music. Our first one is our sharp sign, okay? It is referred to as the sharp sign, not a hashtag. Okay, so our sharp sign raises the tone of a note. Now, next one is our flat sign, and that lowers the tone of the note. And lastly, we have our natural sign, which will return a note to its original pitch. So what I thought would be really fun, in order for me to illustrate how these accidentals work, I'm gonna sing. Okay. So many people gonna know where that exercise came from. I hated choir. Let's cut it. Let's do this. Now let's see how accidentals apply when we're on a keyboard. You're using a keyboard. Our black keys usually indicate two different types of accidentals depending on what pitch you're starting from. Starting from C and you decided to raise it a half step, then it will be called C sharp. However, if you were starting from D and decided to lower it a half step, then you will refer to the black key as D flat. The same also applies if you were starting from D and raising it a half step, you refer to it as D sharp. Or if you were starting from E and lowered it a half step, you refer to it as E flat. Now, this rule also applies when it comes to our white keys. Even though we don't have a black key right here, we can also indicate it as a sharp or a flat depending on what note that we start on. So if you were starting from E and you decided to raise it a half step, then you refer to this white key as E sharp. Or if you were starting from F and decided to lower a half step, you refer to this as F flat. Now, when you start to spell tones such as this, whether it's an F flat or an E sharp, then you will start referring to it as enharmonic tones. Now, there are two more variations of the sharp sign and the flat sign that we have to go over. Now, our two variations of these two accidentals are referred to as a double flat and a double sharp. Now, remember, when you're using a regular flat sign or sharp sign, the goal is to either raise or lower the tone by half a step. However, if you choose to use a double flat or a double sharp, that means that you're lowering the tone by a whole step. Remember, when you're using these symbols, our regular sharp sign and flat sign, lowering or raising the pitch by a half step. When you use a double flat or a double sharp sign, you're lowering or raising the pitch by a whole step. So let's see how double flat and double sharp signs work on the piano. Let's say we start from E, okay? And we wanted to write a E double flat. So remember, if we're going down half a step, that means we're going to E flat, but we want to make an E double flat. So that means we have to have another half step, which will equal to a whole step. So our first half step, E to E flat. Second one, E flat to D. So this will be the spelling for E double flat D, since it is a whole step away, okay? Starting from F, let's say we want to make a F double sharp. From here to here, that's our first half step, which takes us to F sharp, but we're making an F double sharp, which is going to raise it once again to G. So F double sharp is the same as G. So it is now time to review what we learned in class today. Today's lesson consisted of learning about whole steps, half steps, and accidentals. So we know that a half step is the distance from one key to the very next key on the keyboard. Also learned that a whole step is the equivalent of two half steps, okay? Our different accidentals, and those accidental symbols are the sharp sign, the flat sign, the natural sign, and we also learned about double flats and double sharps and how they work on the keyboard. So now with this new information, I was thinking next week maybe we could start working on our scales, and then once we get the scales, we'll get the songs, and once we get the songs, we'll get the pieces, and once we get the pieces, we'll get the composers, and when we get the composers, we'll get the arrows. We're gonna have so much fun, you guys. Like, it's gonna be lit. But thank you guys for joining me for another episode of Ms.Cece'S Classroom. Until next time, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and go practice. Toodaloo.